In a stunning move, King Charles has personally intervened to overturn a decision made by Queen Camilla, sparking headlines and internal shock across royal circles. The king's rare action signals mounting tension behind palace walls and raises urgent questions about power, protocol, and unity within the modern monarchy. Breaking. The king's rare move hits the headlines. It happened quietly, then all at once. On Tuesday morning, royal watchers were jolted by a rare move from King Charles III, confirming he had personally stepped in to review and reverse a decision made by Queen Camilla ahead of a major state event. Within hours, the phrase "King Charles intervenes" was trending across UK media outlets, from The Times to ITV News, sparking headlines about royal protocol breaches and unseen tension inside the firm. What caught attention wasn't just the intervention, but how it was handled. Palace aides, usually tight-lipped, confirmed that the king personally reviewed the details and issued final direction. In royal terms, that's a loaded sentence. It broke from the usual model, where king and queen issue unified decisions. This time, the tone was different. The king acted alone. Insiders whispered that the king's move was not just procedural, it was intentional. He needed to bring things back into balance, one former courtier shared. There was pressure behind closed doors. While the official statement was tightly worded, the public saw what it truly was: a crack in the surface of royal unity. This moment, rare and carefully measured, revealed a shift at the top and pointed to growing tensions in the monarchy's inner circle. Next, the decision that made this intervention unavoidable. The decision that sparked the intervention. According to royal correspondence, the spark came just days before the 2026 State Gala, where Queen Camilla reportedly took a territorial stance over ceremonial protocol, pushing for an adjustment that visibly shifted focus away from Princess Catherine. The change? A symbolic yet powerful positioning during the royal procession, one that downgraded Kate's historical placement beside Prince William. The change was seen by many as more than protocol. It was interpreted as a personal assertion of authority by the Queen Consort. Senior sources at Clarence House hinted that Camilla's team insisted it was logistically based, but those within Kensington Palace were said to be deeply rattled. One insider reportedly said, "It was a line you just don't cross." William and Kate, known for avoiding internal disputes, were described as visibly uncomfortable in the final rehearsal, especially as courtiers questioned why a tradition dating back over 60 years had been overridden at all. By the next morning, Charles had been briefed, and within 36 hours, the adjustment was reversed. What seemed like a quiet internal correction was, in truth, a loud message. The king was not afraid to step in, even when it meant correcting his own wife. Coming up, what the king did and how he did it. Charles's response, a personal intervention. The decision to step in came directly from Buckingham Palace, but sources say it was Charles himself who took the reins. A close aide described it as measured, firm, and fast. The king quietly reviewed the event layout, consulted his private secretary, and reinstated the original ceremonial order, ensuring Princess Kate was honored with her rightful placement. His Majesty viewed this as a matter of continuity and dignity, said a palace source. He didn't want whispers becoming headlines. But the headlines came anyway, especially as experts noted that monarchs rarely override the Queen Consort's role in such public decisions. Unlike Camilla, whose team had pushed hard for the change, Charles communicated his reversal through direct briefings, bypassing layers of advisors. It was a rare glimpse into his personal leadership style, not showy, but decisive, when the crown itself felt unsettled. Those in palace corridors said the tension in the air was real. It was one of the few times we saw His Majesty visibly disappointed, a longtime footman noted. Not angry, just resolute. This wasn't just about a parade. It was about message, power, and position. And the king made sure the monarchy remained in line with its traditions. Next, what this says about Camilla and the queen consort's changing place in the firm. Why this incident matters. The role of the queen consort. Since her elevation to queen consort in May 2023, Camilla's role has largely been defined as supportive, steady, and secondary to the monarch. But this recent incident thrust her into a more assertive, controversial light, prompting questions about the limits of her influence. Palace watchers noted that, for the first time since Charles's coronation, Camilla seemed to test the boundary between ceremonial partnership and institutional control. As one royal historian put it, the queen consort holds symbolic power, not operational power. This event confused the two. This distinction, influence versus authority, is not just technical. It reflects deeper tensions inside the royal structure, especially as public perception still balances Camilla's modern public work with her long, complex history within the royal family. A former courtier noted that Diana's legacy still casts a long shadow. There's still sensitivity around how senior women are presented. When Camilla appeared to cut across Kate, it reignited old wounds in and out of the palace. What followed was more than a course correction. It was a reminder. Tradition isn't just about rules, it's about trust. And that trust, in the eyes of many, was momentarily broken. Up next, what this meant for the broader royal family. Royal family dynamics under pressure. As the royal household moves into 2026, many insiders are quietly saying what the public is starting to suspect. The internal dynamics are strained. Behind the smiles at public engagements, tensions between Queen Camilla and Princess Kate have reportedly lingered, especially around matters of protocol and public image. Sources within Kensington Palace have described recent months as careful and guarded, especially when planning high-profile events where both women are expected to play leading roles. While William continues to act as the steadying bridge between his father and his wife, aides admit that he's walking a tightrope. This intervention by the king, while framed diplomatically, confirmed a deeper pattern. As one royal journalist said, "This is not an isolated moment. It's the culmination of subtle tensions that have been building for over a year." Reports of unspoken disagreements and quiet coldness have surfaced repeatedly since late 2024, particularly after Camilla's increased public presence and speeches touching on monarchy reform, topics typically reserved for the sovereign. "The unity that Charles wants so badly is showing its cracks," said a former advisor. And while the palace will move quickly to patch the optics, insiders know this one left a mark. Public reaction and media frenzy. As word of King Charles's intervention spread, the British press ignited. Front pages were dominated by headlines like "Charles reigns in Camilla" and "Protocol crisis at Palace." By Wednesday afternoon, major networks, including Sky News, BBC, and GB News, were running continuous commentary, with analysts calling it a watershed moment in the king's reign. Social media turned even sharper. On platforms like X, formerly Twitter, and TikTok, clips dissecting the situation went viral. The trending hashtag Camilla Oversteps gained over 1.2 million mentions in under 24 hours, with royal watchers debating whether the queen consort had crossed a line, or whether the press was inflating a minor royal misunderstanding. Online polls conducted by YouGov and Mirror Online revealed a clear divide. 52% of respondents supported King Charles's decision, saying he acted appropriately to preserve tradition. However, 33% believed Camilla had been unfairly scrutinized, with comments highlighting her years of service and loyalty. The remaining 15% remained unsure, citing limited information from the palace. It's hard to know the full story, but something shifted. That much is clear, one former royal press officer noted in a live discussion on LBC radio. The story resonated not just because of protocol, but because it touched a nerve with the public, reviving long-held sensitivities about Camilla's place in the royal hierarchy and her relationship with Princess Kate. Several tabloid columnists pointed out that the moment mirrored past royal fractures. The optics of Camilla overshadowing Catherine, even briefly, brings people back to old emotional ground, wrote Janice Turner in The Times. Others drew parallels to the days when Diana found herself caught between private pain and public duty. Royal fans gathered outside Windsor Castle voiced their concerns. "Catherine has always done everything right. This just didn't feel fair," said one woman, holding a "We Stand with Kate" sign. While some dismissed it as media sensationalism, most agreed. This wasn't just a protocol change, it was personal. Palace spin. Official messaging. After the intervention. By Thursday morning, Buckingham Palace released its long-expected statement. Brief, calculated, and neutral. The King and Queen remain united in their shared commitment to serve, the statement read. No mention of any decision reversal. No acknowledgement of internal disagreement. This kind of messaging is nothing new. Palace communications often walk the tightrope between truth and preservation. But in this case, the strategy was clear. Reframe the story as a procedural correction, not a power conflict. Behind the scenes, however, aides were reportedly working overtime to control the fallout. This was a reset moment, not a rupture, said a senior palace source to The Telegraph, but it required careful hands. Indeed, palace staff across both Clarence House and Kensington Palace were instructed to avoid discussing the matter in any informal settings, a quiet clampdown signaling the seriousness with which the Crown viewed the public reaction. The Queen Consort herself maintained a full diary of engagements that week, smiling and steady as always. Yet, observers noted a subtle shift, less spontaneity, fewer off-the-cuff remarks. Camilla's tone had changed. Royal insiders confirmed that while no formal apology was issued, conversations were had behind closed doors. It was understood that the priority moving forward would be to avoid further appearances of division, especially with King Charles undergoing continued health monitoring following his 2025 heart procedure. The royal machine moved swiftly to refocus attention. Speeches on mental health, veteran affairs, and early childhood development were promoted across official channels. Photos of William and Kate visiting a children's hospice in Norwich were released within hours of the palace statement, drawing attention back to royal duty and goodwill. But no amount of soft-focus media could erase the truth. For the first time in recent memory, the palace had acknowledged, if only silently, a serious disruption at the highest level. Expert insights. Why Charles took charge. Across royal think tanks and constitutional circles, one question echoed loudly. Why now? Why this incident? For King Charles, described by those closest to him as conflict-averse, the decision to override his consort marked a moment of quiet but firm resolve. According to Professor Lydia Farnsworth, a royal historian at King's College London, the move was as much about monarchy management as it was about family dynamics. Charles had to act, not out of preference, but necessity. The crown cannot afford blurred lines of authority, especially in times of transition. The year 2026 represents a delicate moment for the monarchy. With Prince George stepping into more visible roles and Queen Elizabeth II's legacy still felt in every corridor of Sandringham and Balmoral, any public indication of instability hits harder. "Every decision now echoes forward," Farnsworth added. "Charles knows he's not just leading, he's shaping a monarchy for a post-Elizabeth era." Several palace insiders also hinted at private pressure from Prince William, who reportedly expressed concerns about the message being sent to the public if his wife's position continued to be undermined. "It was less about power and more about principle," said one senior aide. What's clear is that the king's decision wasn't about punishing Camilla. It was about restoring balance. For a man who waited 70 years to inherit the throne, Charles's understanding of monarchy is deeply rooted in tradition, yet increasingly tested by modern expectations. As royal biographer Hugo Vickers noted, this was a moment of self-definition. Charles reminded everyone that no matter how subtle the disturbance, he is the sovereign, and his word holds. What this means for Camilla's future influence. In the aftermath of King Charles's unprecedented intervention, Queen Camilla finds herself standing at a quiet crossroads, her public presence still intact, but her influence behind palace walls under review. While there has been no formal demotion, nor any public rebuke, those within Clarence House are reportedly treating the episode as a pivotal recalibration moment, not just for Camilla's team, but for the role of the Queen Consort itself in the modern monarchy. Her engagements continue as scheduled, from hosting book trust literacy initiatives to championing veteran rehabilitation efforts, areas where she has long held authentic and respected ground. But even these appearances, once treated as low stakes, are now being approached with measured caution. According to a senior royal aide quoted in The Times, there's a subtle shift in the tone of everything now. The message is simple: less is more, and every detail matters. Insiders describe a deliberate pullback in tone and tempo, with Camilla's public calendar being streamlined for the next 8 to 12 weeks. Her communications office is said to be tightening briefing protocols, ensuring that any messaging aligns seamlessly with broader palace goals. Even casual remarks, once overlooked, are now reviewed and rehearsed with heightened sensitivity. A longtime friend of Camilla's, speaking anonymously to the Daily Mail, offered rare insight into her current mood. She knows the spotlight is hotter now. One misstep, even a symbolic one, can be amplified beyond repair. Camilla isn't panicked, but she's reflective. That reflection has reportedly extended to private discussions with senior palace advisors, and even with King Charles himself, who remains protective of her position, but deeply aware of the risks that public perception now holds. Though her charitable legacy remains strong, particularly in areas like osteoporosis awareness, animal welfare, and domestic abuse survivor support, there is growing agreement among royal analysts that Camilla's sphere of influence will likely shift. No longer positioned as a quiet advisor in strategic matters, her role may pivot more firmly towards ceremonial presence, symbolic continuity, and softer diplomacy, the kind of influence that supports but does not steer. Emily Nash, royal correspondent for Hello, captured the shift plainly. Camilla has always known her role was delicate. This moment reminded her, and everyone else, that even now, her influence must be exercised carefully. For many, that reminder was not just about overreach. It was about timing, optics, and public feeling, especially when it involves the popular and emotionally resonant figures of Princess Catherine and Prince William. Some in the royal sphere believe this could, paradoxically, strengthen Camilla's image. By taking a step back, Amand can be focusing on her deeply personal patronages, her loyalty to the king, and her ability to carry out ceremonial duties with grace. She may find a path to regain public affection in a quieter, more grounded form. She's best when she's not seen as political, when she's simply doing the work she cares about, one former courtier remarked. Still, others caution that this moment has left a mark. With William and Kate increasingly viewed as the future of the monarchy, the palace must now protect the narrative of unity, and any perception that senior roles are competing for influence could be damaging. The public's expectations have changed. Symbols matter. Dynamics are scrutinized. And Camilla's ability to navigate that landscape must now be more measured than ever. The consensus within royal circles is firm. Camilla remains queen consort, with the full support of her husband and the institution. But the unspoken rules around her influence, especially where it intersects with ceremonial hierarchy or public appearances involving the Waleses, have now been redrawn. She will walk beside the king, but with a quieter footprint. The monarchy in 2026, unity versus tension. As the royal family moves deeper into the second quarter of 2026, the delicate balance between family, duty, and influence is being tested in ways unseen since the late reign of Queen Elizabeth II. The fallout from King Charles's intervention, quiet but public, has made one thing painfully clear. The House of Windsor is not immune to friction. It may survive scandal, but tension has become its newest shadow. At 77, Charles remains a monarch of contrasts, reserved in temperament, yet occasionally decisive when the institution is threatened. For decades, he prepared for this role with patience and restraint, but now, nearly 3 years into his reign, there's growing pressure for him to show not just presence, but command. His recent move to override Queen Camilla's ceremonial decision wasn't just about one event. It became a mirror reflecting the broader unease at court. As Prince William and Princess Catherine continue to bear the emotional weight of future kingship, they now do so amid an increasingly visible internal complexity. Their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are growing up in a royal environment more open, but also more scrutinized than ever. George, now 12, is already being slowly introduced to public life, with planned appearances set for late 2026. Every step they take is carefully measured, but the world is watching for missteps, not just from them, but from those who shape the ground they walk on. Meanwhile, the monarchy's public image, while still largely respected, is fragile. According to a December 2025 Ipsos poll, 69% of Brits said they still support a constitutional monarchy, but only 48% felt the institution was well managed internally. That number sent quiet tremors through Buckingham Palace. In a monarchy built on symbolism, the sense that things are unsettled behind the scenes can be just as damaging as any scandal. This recent incident, with the king correcting his queen consort, has added a new chapter to an old question. Who truly holds power within the palace? One former royal communications official put it bluntly. This isn't just about Camilla and Kate. This is about perception. Who leads? How do they lead? And do the people still believe in that leadership? There is no indication that Charles regrets his intervention. If anything, insiders suggest he sees it as a necessary message, not just to the royal family, but to the British public. That tradition still has meaning, and the crown's equilibrium is not up for negotiation, even when the discord comes from within the palace walls. Yet with Camilla's role now under quiet recalibration, and the Prince and Princess of Wales assuming more soft power with every public appearance, the monarchy appears to be in a slow pivot. It's not a collapse. It's a shift, one that could define the legacy not just of Charles, but of the entire next generation. And so, as 2026 unfolds, the real question is no longer, will the monarchy survive? The monarchy has always survived, through abdications, divorces, tragedies, and scandal. Now, the question is, how will it endure? And who will shape its future when the crown no longer protects from division? As whispers of division echo through the halls of Buckingham Palace, King Charles's intervention stands as a sharp reminder. The crown answers to duty, not discord. Camilla's influence may endure, but the boundaries are now clearer than ever. The monarchy survives, but not without visible strain at its highest level.